Hey everyone, welcome to 2021. Back now after a bit of a break. I've been really busy with the nozzle builds, trying to catch up on a backlog. I've kind of always been on the back foot with them, but I have caught up now. I'm just waiting on a couple of shipments of some more parts for the next few batches. I'm looking at going down a couple of different pathways, so I've got a bit of testing to do, and I've had a few other projects on the back burner that I've brought forward, as well as some cabinet builds. So I'll walk you over shortly with one of the cabinet builds that I'm just completing now. But the video I want to cover today is actually part of the build that I'm doing for these cabinets. So most of you that have had a little bit to do with vapor blasting will have noticed these guns, eBay guns or AliExpress, Amazon. You can get them pretty much anywhere. They're probably the most common. VHT cabinets seem to use them. But anyone that's actually used them will know there are a few flaws to them. One of them being that these fittings rust and the grub screw rusts, and they consume a lot of air. So in the past, I've started making a few modifications to them just to make them suit my applications a little bit better. And I thought today, since I'm going to be doing one for the new build, I thought I might cover just a little bit of the process. There's not much to it, they're pretty simple, but there is some machining involved. So it's not the sort of thing that everyone's going to do in the garage. But if this is the sort of thing that you need to make changes to for some of your nozzles, and you have access to a lathe, for example, then it is a good modification to do. You can make them much more efficient with the air consumption, and for the most part they won't rust as long as you use non-ferrous metals, stainless steel, aluminium, for example. So in the modification I'm doing today, I'll be using aluminium, brass, and then stainless steel set screws. So these ones won't rust. And that's the main reason that I do it. These nozzles still work all right, but I can also, during the build, I can machine the air jet on the inside there to work a little bit better on smaller setups. So that's what today's video is going to be. I'm just going to run over that, and I will also show the build that I'm currently in the middle of. So first thing I'm going to do is I'll bring the camera over so you can see all the components a little bit better. Then I'll machine up the new nozzle, and then put it all together, and I'll also find time to have a quick look at the cabinet that I'm in the middle of building right now. So let's get into it. So as I mentioned, this is the type of gun that I'm going to be modifying. Once it's stripped down, this is what you'll find inside. So we've just got that steel hose tail, it's in there. We have a steel black oxide finished set screw, it runs in there. That holds in this air jet there, and it has a hose barb on the back of it, and usually 4 to 4.5 millimeter sort of thing in the end, so they consume a lot of air. Now that's all good if you've got a good air supply. Most people are working with a lot less, so I'm going to build, well, this one here will be built with a 4 millimeter for a larger cabinet, but I also build them all the way down to 2.5 millimeter. So that's that. The sandblasting gun has this like surgical tube over the end, and that just is kind of like a wear patch to stop the nozzle wearing away with the sand getting drawn in. But I find that there doesn't seem to be too big an issue for the most part with vapor blasting. The water cushions enough, and I haven't seen any excessive wear on the inside of my nozzles so far. And then on the end you've just got the boron carbide tip, that's a 10 millimeter, and then just the nozzle cap, if it's in like that. So pretty simply what I will be doing is machining that up to match that. This will have a 4 millimeter hole on the inside. I also put a rubber O-ring around there, and it just stops all the slurry spraying up the back. So there'll be an O-ring, a recess cut in for an O-ring, so that when it slots in, it'll seal nicely and you don't have a back feeding of water coming out spraying everywhere. not necessary really, it just makes it look a little bit more professional, a little bit tidier. So I mean, while it's in the lathe, I may as well cut that in as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's fairly simple. Like I say, it's just the fact that it needs to be machined. It's not something you can easily make in your garage, but it's not overly complicated. I just figured I'd just show the way I modify these. I mean, you could probably take that in somewhere and just get them to copy it out of aluminium or stainless. I don't think it'll be too expensive. But since I've got the lathe here, I just do them myself. And then for the rest of it, it's just really replacing grub screws with stainless grub screws, for example, or replacing a steel hose tail with a brass one. That's just an example. There's plenty of different types. Effectively, it doesn't really matter that much as long as it's for the right size for the hoses you use. See that one there? I've machined up a 16mm hose tail, and that'll go in for a larger cabinet. I mainly use either 1/2 inch 12.7mm or 16mm 5/8 for my slurry lines, and they seem to suffice for the builds that I've been doing. I haven't got to the point where I'm kind of overrunning my slurry, so I kind of stick to those two sizes. But yeah, I'll get set up in the lathe. I'll start machining that. I may document some of that process. I don't want to get too long into it. It's nothing really that special. And then we'll also go over the new cabinet that I'm building at the moment. So let's get into it. Right, so here's the end result. I didn't film the actual machining. There's nothing you'll learn from there. No special tricks. I'm pretty average on a lathe. I'll just try and get them a little closer so you can see. So there, as you can see, I've put on the ring groove and an O-ring in there just to stop it sealing. When it is in there and you have got pressurized slurry coming through, if there is a gap, you'll notice a lot of the cheaper eBay guns, I mean, the quality control isn't great in them, and there's usually a very small gap around here, and quite often if you have a decent pressure feed coming up to your handpiece, it will leak out there, spray everywhere, as I mentioned before. So I'll put the O-ring in there. You can probably see it's scratched up a bit. I've been test fitting it a few times. The other thing is, with these original air jets in them, they're usually very poorly drilled. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see. I will hold it up there a little bit. I don't know how good that is. Hang on, here we go. So I don't know how good that is, but if you have one and take a look down it, you'll probably see that they're very poorly drilled. They're not straight. I'll make sure that these ones here are drilled very, very straight, and just that alone will get you an increase in performance. So essentially, all I do, if I just move this stuff around, that is essentially what I'm replacing. So this will come out with that and steel grub screw. It's just a black oxide finish, and essentially all I do is I replace that with a stainless one, I replace that with a brass brass hose barb, and then I just make another one of these out of aluminium and fit the O-ring on it. So that's all it is. Very simple. I didn't bother showing the machining. There's nothing special to it. You won't learn anything from me messing around with a lathe, and I'm not that fast on a lathe either, so it just would have been boring. This video is going to get long enough as it is, so I'll just quickly throw this one together. It's a lot tighter now. You'll notice these ones, when the grub screw's loose, there's quite a bit of slop in it. So that's closed up a lot, and it's a lot tighter now. So I'll just wind that in. So now we've got the stainless steel grub screw going in. There we go. And replace that. That one's actually going to get this because it's going to be a 5/8. I've got another one coming for that, but I need that on there for testing. And then that's essentially it. So there's the two together, look practically the same, obviously minus that one's a 5/8, that's ½ inch still on that, but now all the steel components have been removed, so that's not going to rust in your cabinet. So I mean, simple enough if you have a lathe. Even if you got one of those remade, I suppose you could potentially coat it if you wanted to, but for me, since I've got access to the lathe, this is how I do them. This is how they come on my cabinets, just because it's not a good look if a customer has a relatively new cabinet and the first thing they notice after it's been sitting for a little while is a crappy rusty nozzle sitting inside, especially on stainless, with the stainless steel mesh. If you leave it too long with a ferrous metal in there, rusting ferrous metal, it will transfer onto your stainless and start your stainless rusting. So I mean, they're always going to need a little bit of maintenance to make sure they don't start, especially if you're doing a lot of ferrous metals in there, things that will rust in your cabinet. But just doing this, not only do you get a better quality nozzle that will work a little bit more efficiently, you can set it up to your air supply, it will actually look better and not rust. So that's where I'm at with those. That's how I do all the nozzles that are supplied in my cabinets. Speaking of which, I will take you around now and I'll show you the build that I'm working on currently. It's almost there. I should have it done in a week or so. So I'll just take you around that now. So this is the current build. That is my largest model. That is a just under 1.2 meters wide and 800 deep. The whole thing stands about 1900 high, 1970. This is exactly the same height. It's the same depth, but it is only 800 millimeters wide. So much narrower, and that is my mid-size cabinet. So it's the same width as my smallest cabinet, but the same height and depth as the larger one. So as you can see there, I've just fit up the wiper, and on the inside there it's got everything cut out for the glass. It's got the all the mounting for the spray nozzle for the windscreen, all the meshes in there, and I've just picked up the pump today. So I will fit the pump over the next couple of days. So yeah, there we go, we've got all four. That's going harping back to the old dishwasher build. I still use that. I do a lot of testing with it, and that one's actually sold a few cabinets for me actually, when people have either seen it and then contacted me, or they've been interested and they want to try out a cabinet. I don't always have a completed cabinet here at the time. Quite often someone will want to come look, and they'll be somewhere around this stage, and I've got that set up and working, and once they have a turn with that and try it on some scrap aluminium, quite often it's enough to push them over the edge and convince them to get into it. If not, to buy outright one of my cabinets, at least to do a conversion, and I'm usually involved either with just information or with a sale of my books, my ebooks, on how to build them. So that's where I'm at, and this is the cabinet the nozzle I just built is for. I have a few more things that I want to get into in the next few videos. I do have a list, and every now and again I will have people that will leave a comment with a suggestion or something they want to see, something they want to know. So for 2021, I already have a list of things, an expanding list of things that people want to see, and I'm going to try and get a few more videos out. So we've just gone over 3,000 subscribers around Christmas time, and I'm hoping if I can continue to grow it, then it'll allow me to focus more time on development and more time getting more videos out there to make vapor blasting even more accessible. There are a lot of people out there that, I mean, there's already a lot of information on building, so I think I might start venturing into different medias, how to get different finishes, and probably focus a bit more on air supplies and try and work in some ways of getting higher capacity air supplies without breaking the bank. And so yeah, I've had I've been contacted by a guy in Europe who was after a bit of information on these cabinets, and while he was waiting for my response, he went in and did a logo for me, and I'm quite happy with it. So you'll probably see over the next few videos a bit of a rebranding almost going on. It'll pretty much be everything that I have now, but you'll just see more logos popping up. So yeah, if you're new to the channel, this is the first one you've watched, go back and watch a few of the older videos. There's a lot of information on building cabinets. Remember to subscribe, like the videos, leave a comment too, especially if you didn't quite see what you wanted to know in the video. Leave a comment, and I'm doing fairly well at keeping up with comments at the moment, responding to comments, and I'll be making a greater effort for the rest of the year. So thanks for watching. As I said, like, subscribe, and definitely comment. I'm quite keen to start expanding the community a little more, getting a bit more feedback as to what you guys want to see, and expanding on the information that I already have on the channel. So yeah, cheers.